right now. Sam Spiegelman on 3.com covers recruiting. Is at the Elite 11. We've mentioned Novosad and many others as well. Sam, thanks for your time. I know it's busy as heck. What has this USC, UCLA story, especially since there's a USC quarterback out there, has it been top of mind other than the competition today?
Honestly, we got the news and we had already kicked off this morning. I actually had a chance to catch up with Malachi, who said he has never once heard of, USC being rumored to the Big Ten. It was never brought up in a recruiting pitch. Obviously, we know how Malachi Nelson ended up at USC. It's a very easy story. I don't know if the conference did anything. It doesn't sound like he had any knowledge of it or preconception that it was even on the way. But certainly he's looking forward to it. I mean, seems like it's just it's a normal thing with the times these days. So he was kind of open and then willing to hear more. He had found out basically like the rest of us there.
Sam, how did you see everything shaking out at the Elite 11 today? Because again, you haven't been on this. Austin Novosad, how did he do? Jackson Arnold obviously was the overall MVP. What were your breakdowns from this?
Yeah, I thought obviously Jackson was among the top performers, and the same goes for Austin Novosad. I think the top performer at Elite 11 is always, it's subjective. I know that, On Three is calculating their numbers and Sports Illustrated and all the media entities. And, but from basically my eyes, I don't do any scoring. Jackson and Austin, two of the top guys, both from Texas. I thought Austin was really sharp the first 2 days, and he was pretty good today. But Austin, I think, really during the pro day kind of showed what he was all about. First of all, he showed up here a lot thicker than the last time I saw him in January in San Antonio. He's always had a pretty ball. That's never changed. But what we saw was a little bit more, quicker decision making, quicker channeling upstairs to deliver and strike over the middle, short and intermediate. To put a little gusto on his fastball, and that's something I think he's going to have a really good senior season. It seems like he's been developing and kind of taking strides with his game, and I think he's really established himself as one of the. I don't know if he's those guys that are top 10, 20, 50 in the country, but he's certainly in that top 150 to 300 range for sure. He's got all the tools to be a real playmaker, and he keeps getting better, so he might just continue to develop and ascend. And with Jackson Arnold, he was sharp from start to finish. One of the top performers during the pro day, which is always one of the pivotal moments. And then I got to watch him during the target contest this morning, and he kind of just shows off how he's got great footwork and able to throw well on the move and so accurate. He never kind of loses his touch. And I think he showed that again in the 7-on-7 portion, just showing off that deep ball, which we see so much at Denton Guyer. It's a big part of Denton Guyer's passing game, and he executes it so well. It just looks so natural coming out of Jackson's hands.
Sam, the quarterback that's been talked about the most is one that's not even competing there. As far as talked about over the last week, and Arch Manning. Can you describe for those out there, because there's a lot of people, he's not even at Elite 11. Can you describe how Elite 11 comes to be and why some guys might not be there versus those who are?
Yeah, the Elite 11, it's a camp circuit, just like, any camp circuit. And, for Arch's focus is team first and school first. And, he's never participated in camps. He's never going to participate in camps. People have tried to get him to come out, and on Wednesday he was throwing 7-on-7 at Isidore Newman uptown in New Orleans, and he's getting better with his team to try to make a state title run. And he's just not into the individualistic awards or accolades, and he's rather focused on his team. His decisions out of his way. He doesn't, he's not really worried about being number one in the country or wherever he is ranked. So, the threat of going out there to justify a ranking or anything has never, I don't think, crossed his mind.
Another quarterback that was talked about a lot this week for other reasons was Jaden Rashada, but he was out there competing. What did you see from the new Miami commit?
Jaden had a kind of an up and down week. I can't help but imagine that the month that he's just had played a little bit of a role. He took 3 official visits to open June, and then he obviously ultimately officially visited Miami and then committed there soon after. In between, he's extended his commitment date, and 2 major national recruiting events have occurred in the last month with the OT7 in Vegas, as well as Elite 11 here in Redondo Beach. So between that and making, arguably the biggest decision, at least of his life so far, Jaden has also had to deal with the recruiting media, and I think it maybe has teetered into his play a little bit. I've seen Jaden play a couple of times this offseason. It comes out of his arm really well. I mean, he's got a sexy deep ball. It's the only way to put it. He makes it look really natural when things are going good. When he's in a rhythm, it comes out well, and he can put it anywhere in the field and make it look pretty effortless. This week he was a little bit up and down. His accuracy was definitely off. He had a couple of moments, a couple of really good balls here and there, but for the most part, it wasn't the same kind of quarterback that I had seen as a top performer at events a little bit earlier in the offseason this spring.
Can you try, Sam, and again, we appreciate your time since everything's been going on. You've been busy and all the reporting you're doing. What is really the difference from what Jackson Arnold did to what Novosad did to Malachi Nelson or anybody else, Rashada? Is it like a thin paper line of how the talent separates itself?
If I'm being honest, in this particular class, you're looking at the top 5 or 6, depending on who you are and your subjectiveness or lack of, I think there's 5 or 6 just elite quarterbacks in the country, and a good chunk of them were there. And then, with the fact that it was excluding Arch Manning and Nico Iamaleava, those are guys that, are in the same, I would say, stratosphere. I think there's certainly an elite stratosphere. I think there's a really, really intriguing stratosphere, with guys like Novosad, but he might not be the best, one of the best 5 in the country, but heck, he's maybe a top 10 guy, and he's someone that, like I said, keeps getting better. So I think, ultimately, Jackson Arnold is certainly worthy of being the MVP. I think that a guy like J.J. Cole is also worthy of being the MVP. Maybe he won the pro day, and he was excellent during the 7-on-7 today, and I think he only had 4 incompletions and 6 touchdowns or something just that you just don't hear every day, and then you roll your eyebrows at it, like, what did I just hear? At the same time, Malachi Nelson, I thought he might have had one of the better pro days. Ricky Collins, who's committed to Purdue, was excellent during his pro day, and I put a lot of emphasis on that. So, the Elite 11 it balances the different contests. So yeah, I think there's stratospheres. But in all essence, you can look at a quarterback and you can watch his body of work and you can watch his film, of course, and you can kind of know whether they're an elite guy, a really good guy, or someone who's intriguing, or if they're maybe a notch below that.
Glad you mentioned J.J. Cole. I know Iowa State fans would like to hear about him, so good to hear that he was doing well at the same time. But he has stood out this week.
J.J. Cole was absolutely phenomenal. Like I said, I think he had 4 incompletions, and I think he had 6 drives on the 7-on-7 and scored every single time. He's a big guy. He's 6'6". He kind of looks like that traditional kind of quarterback that we're used to with the Peyton Mannings of the world, the Josh Allens of the world, where they're, the physical, impressing, but he threw with great touch. He can rifle it in. He can put it anywhere in the field. He steps up into his throws and he can launch it. He might have had the strongest arm there. That's certainly up in the possibility. I would say, that my first time watching him, certainly one of the top performers, if not the top performer. If you're going to offer a criticism, I would say he's maybe not as quick as a processor as someone like a Christopher Vizina or even like an Austin Novosad or Jackson Arnold, one of some of those guys. But that's something that just comes with time and experience. And, for quarterbacks like any, position, sometimes the light turns on or you develop at a different rate. So, J.J. Cole is someone I'd take a chance on, 10 times out of 10.
Sam, thank you. I appreciate your time and jumping on with us after what the great camp, the Elite 11. Thanks for your time. Austin Novosad did well, and Arnold did well, and he mentioned all the others. Appreciate it and his reporting with us from Oregon on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
From Redondo Beach, and I was going to mention that as well.
Oh.
I was under the impression it had been in Oregon, but no, it's in Redondo Beach, so glad that got a chance to correct that.
And not to knock the beautiful state of Oregon, but that might be a little bit of an upgrade.
Oregon's pretty nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
hey, the live golf tournament's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.